Okay. Uh, it's been a while since I've made a YouTube video. Um, and a lot has happened. There's so many different things I have wanted to talk about, even recordings that I've made sitting here ranting and talking about various things, and I just haven't decided to upload it. And who knows, maybe this will be yet another video that doesn't get uploaded. But I feel like it has a place, it deserves to be out there because I don't know. I think this is a little bit more. I don't know. I feel like a lot of my videos have a very fine edge, which is nothing to be afraid of. Like I have the feelings that I do, but I have this feeling that when I put these things out there, for a lot of people, it's not interesting to them. It doesn't resonate with them. It's and it's got such like an edge to it that it's like because they're so far removed from it already, the fineness of the edge kind of like weirds them out a little bit, almost maybe feels a little threatening. Hopefully that's a good analogy for, I don't know, something you can understand, because I know it's not just me even though it feels that way. But I know it's not just me who has felt that way and who can feel that way at times with some of the very strong personal feelings that we may have about certain things. Today, on the other hand, I want to get into something that I call the Christian aesthetic. Um, I grew up in a Christian family, Christian household, with traditional Christian values. Around the age of 13, I ended up joining the Catholic Church, baptized, Eucharist, confirmation, all that jazz, receiving communion, and then continued to do that. Left the Catholic Church, kind of started leaning a little bit more like, I guess, fundamentalist, you could say. Swirled around in like a fundamentalist, orthodox kind of world, I suppose, because I've always sort of had a little bit of this like mythological interpretation to Christianity, and purely. Uh, I don't mean purely like being myth. I mean, what's the better way of saying it? A like alchemical understanding of Christianity. Like it literally is some form of magic. Um, and that some of that is in there as well. And so I think Catholicism kind of appeals to that. I think Eastern Orthodoxy even more so. Um, but then also having like this very fundamentalist view on certain things like sexuality and homosexuality and like transgenderism and things being like evil or good, like things being satanic, especially growing up making music, this fear of like satanic imagery and messaging in music and things like that. And then especially that began to grow into a more like societal problem where society is sort of embracing these satanic values, all these ways in which politics are, putting it right in your face. I started finding myself being very conspiracy minded, like landing in those kind of camps as well. But I've since been deconstructing out of Christianity. It's something that I no longer believe in for various reasons, but getting into something like that has an edge on it, right? And so whether you're Christian or not, I have friends that are Christian. In fact, probably most of my friends are Christian. That's not what this video is about. Whatever faith you have, I'm all for it. But I really hope that anybody watching this who is a Christian can still sort of get where I'm coming from with this one, and that it's not as perhaps difficult to digest, because this isn't about dismissing Christianity for what it is. This is just about exploring one of the facets of, or at least that I perceive to be, of Christianity. Okay? So, again, this whole thing is the Christian aesthetic. And the reason I think this is so interesting is because it has power. Whether you're a Christian or not, even myself being someone who has left Christianity, I still see this thing, and a Christian would tell me that it represents so many other things in addition to what I may describe here, and that's totally fine, fair and good. They may validate some of the things that I say here, and say that maybe it comes from a different place than what I'm describing, and that's totally fine too. But of course, since I've deconstructed, I have a little bit of a different perspective on this, so I'll just try to cover what I'm talking about first, and then I'll kind of get into some of my perspectives on it, and that can kind of be two separate topics here in this video. So first of all, what is the Christian aesthetic? Okay, I grew up in a relatively wealthy part of my town, and went to a good school where kids had, middle class houses that they grew up in, and I would even argue middle to upper class houses that they grew up in. Even myself being one of them. My grandparents rather were sort of wealthy in the beginning, and then things very quickly fell apart. But they had some money to throw around, and so I had the privilege of growing up in one of these upper middle class homes. And you see something that perhaps is unique to that kind of economic situation. Like I'm not sure if this is the same in the lower class, and perhaps perhaps it's similar but different in other ways. But and I'll touch on this, maybe I'll try to. But with the Christian aesthetic, this is the first image I want to pull up right here. I mean, I don't even know if I need to explain anything here. I mean, it says Christian Girl Autumn Aesthetics Wiki Fandom. I know nothing about this, by the way. I just came here and Googled Christian aesthetic people. But this is so perfectly captures what my brain sees. You see the clear skin. You see the bright white, perfect, straight teeth smile. And you see a person, by looking in their eyes, someone who seems like life is just as beautiful as the autumn trees behind them. I mean, they are just at peace. They look cozy. Look at that oversized flannel. They got this nice little cutesy, comfy beanie on. They got their hair, all done up. I mean, she probably had to go see a hair person to do this. I don't know nothing about, big old smacking diamond ring on the left ring finger, another smaller little ring, that's something symbolic to her. You got the cup of coffee. I mean, gosh, what is Christianity? What is the Christian aesthetic without the coffee? Okay, you've got the the nice jeans, whatever. When you look at this person, you wouldn't maybe think that this person is living on, even as a modest example, like a college grad, income. Like, this person is beyond the point of, just moving out of their parents' home. They're beyond the point of, living with a roommate. They're beyond the point of, staying in some kind of college dormitory or something like that. This person is not in any of those situations. You cannot look at me and tell me that person right there is in any of, and maybe they live at home, but if they live at home, the house is so incredibly big and she like drives a Mercedes, I don't know, whatever, S-Class, whatever you want to call it, Mercedes Benz, G-Wagon, or she's just driving a BMW or something. Like, she's fine, right? Like, this is getting at what I'm describing. Getting at. And I don't want to describe it. Oh yeah, goodness gracious. Here we go, full screen with it. Yeah, you got the boots, you got the nice purse, there's some money. There's some money going on. Look at that. That's a nice looking purse. Okay, I don't know, maybe it's offhand market, whatever. You got a couple photos here, and this seems like some I saw on one of these, Christianity is not an aesthetic. So, there's people who are sort of like toxic Christian Girl Autumn. It seems like this was something that was maybe a controversial thing even within the Christian community. But I don't think that Christians realize that even even the ones that are like calling this out are probably still themselves in some way representing this, whether they mean to realize it or not. And what do I mean by that? Like, look, I mean, do you think that all of these people, I mean, let's just, oh, I didn't mean to, I just clicked something else. Do you think that all of the, look at this. Do you think that these people, you can look at this girl and you can tell me that she's doing this because, like, you can try to take the angle that, she's just operating on this, like, very thin veneer, not real, surface level understanding of Christianity. Like, oh, well, we're not like that. Like, we have a different understanding. You can totally take that angle with this person. Fine. No disrespect to this person, by the way. But, like, you have to understand, again, as a Christian or not, and, I'm curious if maybe there's different opinions here, but I think I do believe that it's true to some extent, and again, everybody's probably going to see it a little bit differently, that, like, this aesthetic is real. Like, even these people, I don't think they're taking this photo perhaps trying to sell this Christian aesthetic to you. This whole Christian girl autumn, that's one thing. That's packaging, that's recognizing what this aesthetic is and then packaging it from within and pushing it out. And there's plenty of Christians, I'm sure, who have been fooled by this. But even to those of you who recognize this and differentiate it from, a true Christianity that's, devout and, humble, there's still a aesthetic, I believe, that exists beyond the package that you got, the marketed package, that even those who wouldn't view themselves in this way still represent. And I'm not even going into this as it being like a problem, mind you. Like, it's just that, and I'll get into my feelings on it, but I'm just, at this point, again, like, I'm trying to do this as two parts. Like, what is it that I'm describing purely? You can make your own opinion about it. And then in the end, I'm going to give you mine. Okay? So even if I do have a problem with it, I'm not trying to express what it is as problematic in and of itself. Okay? The aesthetic exists. It is what it is. When I say it's problematic, I'm saying it is for me. And I am going to express, like, some deeper problems that I associate with it. But I'm just going to focus on, again, trying to kind of continue to flesh out what you're seeing here. Here you have two people who I'm sure to every extent would consider themselves genuine Christians. And maybe even to you, the person calling out this Christian girl, Autumn, you may walk into this household and say, now these people really do love God. Okay? So, like, I'm not trying to describe this as the worst of the worst, because now I'm making, like, a subdivision. Like, we're describing what it is, but you have, like, the toxic, clearly, like, the inherent toxic part of it here, at least recognized by most Christians. And then you have, like, the neutral, pre-existing, more unspoken kind of aesthetic that you see in a photo like this, right? And it's hard to put into perfect words. Everybody's different. This is a good example. I mean, you see a guy who, I don't know, he's got, like, a clean hair. I mean, this photo's terrible, right? But he's got, like, a clean haircut. He's got a decent enough looking face. He's in, pretty good shape. He's got a nice, hoodie that he's wearing. He's got this girl. Her skin is, kind of glowing. She looks very happy. Hair, again, very well kept. She looks like she's in good shape. She's got some nails there. They look like they're in a home that's pretty well furnished, and it's got a nice, modern, kind of bright aesthetic to it. This is another kind of example of what I think of when I think of the Christian aesthetic. I have friends of mine who I grew up with, and, this is what I have a friend who looks, not far off from this, and he grew up in a house that looked not far off from this, and you might see somebody who does something that inspires you, somebody who might seem like they're in a better position than you. Like for me, I'm overweight, so anybody who's in shape and doing well, there's always this like envy of somebody who is in better shape, and I say envy specifically because I'm not jealous of them, but I'm envious, I want to achieve something like that for myself, and I can appreciate that they themselves are not having to live with the overweight nature that I have, and so there is that, right? But when I look at that person and then I see that Christian necklace, here, let me see if I can pull up something else here. Let me do Christian fitness. You see these fitness influencers, blessed up, stay blessed. No big deal, man. I'm shredded. I got the sleeves cut, but stay blessed, bro. Oh, you just got to stay committed. You got to tattoo the cross on you, bro. And then you then you see the post where it's like, every day was a struggle. I was so unhappy with myself. Then I learned that I had to turn to God, and it just changed my life completely. Or it has some aesthetic song playing and them running on the treadmill, and they got their Christian necklace swinging, and it's just a little narration speaking in the background. I never knew who I was until I turned my life to Christ. God says that good things come to those who work hard every day, and I humble myself every day in the gym. I have faith over everything. Faith over fear. There you go. Hey, there you have it. Right? Okay. So I think most people pretty well get it. Okay. This video is already 17 minutes deep. So let me start getting into some of my feelings about it, my opinions about it, and everything's just my opinion anyways, by the way. I mean, you may think that this doesn't exist at all and that this is me just making this up. So that's fine. But to me, I think it's a lie. Frankly, I think it's a lie. I think the problem I have with it is twofold. A, that to somebody who has already been through the process of being a Christian and then you leave it, it's almost like you get this little thorn in the back of your head that makes you feel like you afraid of making the wrong decision, or afraid of trusting how you feel, afraid of allowing yourself to let go of it because you see these other people who seem to be doing better than you. And it has nothing, but this has nothing to do with what Christianity is. It really doesn't. It has nothing to do with Christianity. This aesthetic, zero resemblance, association to Christianity. And as some of these Christians, these more rooted and awakened Christians are pointing out to you, it's not. Some people are calling it toxic. It's not an aesthetic. They're calling it out, calling it how it is. And the reason I make this point is because, to me, I think Christianity is something that embodies peace and prosperity and joy and community. And when I say prosperity, I do mean prosperity. I mean, it's not just living. It's not just thriving. It is being prosperous, that you have some amount of wealth and financial opportunistic wealth behind you. That's what I think part of this represents. And I think, to me, the reason I think it's a lie is because Christianity isn't different from any other faith. It's not. And there's plenty of people of other faiths who are doing well. There's plenty of people who are atheists who are doing well, who would resemble perhaps a similar energy. But for some reason, in my little world that I grew up in, this is so much more easy to understand than like whatever this would be for a Muslim girl, for an atheist girl. Like when I think of an atheist person, I don't imagine somebody who looks like that. It's weird. It's a strange thing, even as an atheist. Like I don't, and I'll say agnostic, I suppose, but even as somebody who's not Christian, like I don't associate somebody who's atheist, who's Muslim, who is, Hindu as looking like that. Maybe the Mormons got it, maybe, but I don't think the Mormons are right about anything. And that's like perhaps a better example, like you could look at Mormons or an Eastern Orthodox person or a Protestant person could look at somebody like a Catholic and see and feel the same thing while yet completely disagreeing with their theology as it being completely removed from the truth. And so, in deconstructing, when I describe this temptation, I'm not describing God trying to reach back out and be like, no, like, look at this beautiful thing. Like, this is what I want for you. Like, I don't believe that. I think what I'm feeling is literally what I grew up experiencing, what I still experience, and what I think exists even outside of whatever Christian sect you fall under. It's the entire umbrella of Christianity, I think, that carries this aesthetic. Whether you're Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Mormon, even, screw it, we'll throw Jehovah's Witness in there, it doesn't matter. Protestant, Presbyterian, like fundamentalist. This is what all of those sects mutually carry this aesthetic. And so even if you're in that other sect, this is still the aesthetic that you represent, to me, at least. Maybe I'm wrong. And I just watched a YouTube video, every now and again. I watch a lot of small creators. And so I'll get a recommendation from some small creator. I didn't see how many subscribers this has, but it's probably less than 10,000. And could have been as low as 300 or something, right? But she had uploaded a video called "I'm Envious of Religious People." I envy religious people. And she talks about how she grew up outside of religion. She didn't really have a religion, but her mom told her it's important that you believe in something. And, she never really believed in anything. I mean, she says that she's agnostic, but she lives with the fear of death, that she's afraid of dying, because to her, when you die, it's lights out. There is nothing else. She thinks that's how it works. There's nothing. She has a hard time believing that, like, there's this place that you go to with somebody who's, like, governing and watching over the world. And she talks about, and it sounds like she's kind of on the edge of, or holding back tears when she's talking about her experience in envying their happiness. And this is certainly like speculative on my part, but I just can't help but wonder if this is something that she sees and feels envious of. And she just kept describing, like, how wonderful it must be for a Christian to experience that feeling, and to be able to just truly know in your heart that when your siblings pass away, when your parents pass away, when you pass away, that everybody's going to be in this beautiful, wonderful place together, holding hands with Jesus, the God of the whole creation of everything. And that he's going to be there for you, and that you're going to get to live forevermore. Your experience will continue on forevermore. Because for whatever reason, it's like hard for us to be able to come to terms with the idea that our consciousness, being something that didn't truly begin until our birth, ends at death. But look around you. Like, do you ever feel like, I mean, I get that everybody thinks that it's different because we're divine creatures of God, but nothing else lives beyond death. Nothing. Trees don't live beyond death. Leaves on the trees don't live beyond death. When those new leaves come next year, you know, you're not seeing it as, you know, the heavenly bodies of the leaves of last year. No, it's new freaking leaves on the tree. You know, when that animal passes away for you to eat, well, you need more food. There is no spiritual cow for you to go eat off of after you killed the one cow in the field to eat. And for some reason, us humans believe that when we pass away, we get to go to a special place where our experience continues forever. Forever. And nothing else does, because it's not a divine inspired creation of Jesus. You know, it's like this happy bliss of ignorance. And not just ignorance, you know, like it is the most polished form of arrogance. Maybe that's what I'll title this video. Christianity is the most polished form of arrogance. The Christian aesthetic is the most polished form of arrogance. Perhaps one day I'll double down on why I believe Christianity is the same. The theology itself is just the same. But for now, I'm only talking about the aesthetic. This does not represent Christianity. I know both myself, atheists, and Christians would likely agree. It doesn't. Not what it truly is supposed to be. And for that reason, I think it is by allowing yourself to be fooled by that, it's no different than allowing yourself to be fooled by the temptations of something you may consider satanic. I don't know, money, greed, wealth, whatever it may be, like corruption, like sex, whatever it is, like the aesthetic, the temptation of this aesthetic, and believing that because you are in the position that you are, that life is so photogenic for you that it somehow corroborates your faith in God. That is the most polished form of arrogance. See what I mean? So anyways, this video is almost 30 minutes long. I'll leave it there. I'm sure you get the picture. This one I think is going up to the channel. But eventually I'll probably get into some more videos about why it is I deconstructed from Christianity, what my biggest problem was with Christianity. And when I say problem, I mean like what I think really led me out of Christianity. Really kind of slapped me in the face and was like, I don't know about this one. So, if you're interested, stay tuned for that. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one.